Good morning to our people and to our two dogs, our therapy dogs. A very warm welcome to everyone, and welcome to our Green Wedge Public Lecture number. I shouldn't have said number because I don't know what number it is. 7, is it? And this morning we've got very special guests, and I've got the morning off. I won't be reading any bios or asking any questions. That's all up to them, which will be lovely. But I'm going to start us off by reading an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge we are on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people and pay respects to elders past and present. We extend respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and we acknowledge their living connection to country, relationship with the land and all living things. So if I didn't say it, I don't think I did at the start, I'm Sally Agostino, the pastor of Southern Cross Community Church, which meets here on a Sunday, 10:30am. If you are wanting to explore faith, this is a safe place to do it. There's never a dumb question, so if you would like to join us on a normal Sunday, it's at 10:30am. But this morning is not a service, this morning is one of our public lectures. So without further ado, I will introduce April and Sam, and they will be guiding us through some information about refugee and asylum seeker communities, both having worked extensively in the field. So it's our pleasure to introduce you this morning.
Thank you, Sally. I'm just going to introduce myself, and I'm going to let Sam introduce himself. So my name's April Huglin. I work with BaptCare, and I'm a caseworker who works with people seeking asylum. And BaptCare has, I'll explain a little bit later, but we provide housing, casework support. We have a food bank running for the people that we care for, and there's a 30-bed rooming house in Brunswick, and we have houses scattered through the community. So we have about 80 people that we're currently housing who are all seeking asylum. And I'm going to be this morning asking Sam some questions. Sam's got an amazing story and does amazing work with the Persian community here in Victoria. And I'm going to be asking him some questions, and then we're going to come back to me. I'm going to talk a little bit more about perhaps how you could engage, if you wanted to, in the asylum seeker situation here in Australia. Now, I will give a warning. Some of the stories that we might tell this morning might be quite confronting and challenging to hear, but they are real stories of people living in these situations. So I just wanted to warn you of that. We're quite welcome for you to come up afterwards and talk to us. And but I'm going to start by asking Sam to introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sam Farbod. I'm Persian pastor. I'm serving Farsi-speaking people in a couple of congregations around Melbourne at New Hope Baptist Church and also Bandura Presbyterian Church. So I'm connected to more than 450 people, asylum seekers and refugees around Australia, and also more than 1,000 people, asylum seekers and refugees around the world. So I am a contact point for many of Persian and Afghani refugees and asylum seekers.
Sam, what brought you to Australia?
We came to Australia because Nikki, my wife, wanted to continue her studies in PhD in Australia, but it happened suddenly. It happened at last minute, because before that we were trying to go to Canada. In fact, Nikki was in the middle of application for studying in Canada, but it happened that at last minute we changed our plan and we came to Australia. It is a long story, but just few days before the final result of her application for a study in Canada, I felt a strong conviction in my heart that I felt that we should explore coming to Australia. I didn't know how this conviction came to my heart, but I picked up the phone and I called Nikki. I said, Nikki, we should explore. I'm thinking we should explore coming to Australia, going to Australia. But she's surprised. We are in the middle and almost we are finished. We are getting the visa. But I insisted, maybe this is the things that we should explore. So when she saw that I'm continuing to insist, she surrendered and she went to Australian embassy that day. It was close to her workplace. And then in the queue, when she was standing in the queue, she started talking to a man in front of her, and that man was graduated from one of the universities, and he strongly encouraged Nikki to apply for that university. And then a few days later, she applied for that university, and she got very attractive scholarship from university, and we came to Australia. So this is our story.
Mm-hmm. And Sam, what was your life like back in Iran?
We both were engineers. Nikki's chemical engineer, and I'm industrial engineer. Of course, my bachelor degree is chemical engineer. My master degree is industrial engineer. We were very successful. We used to work in industry, and we had very good position in our work, and we enjoyed life in Iran.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you went from being an engineer to being a pastor. Tell us a little bit about that transition and what you now do with the Persian community that you work with.
Yeah, as I said, I'm pastor now. That time I never imagined one day that I will become pastor and serving people. But this happened, and when we came to Australia, I started a full-time job in one of the universities in Melbourne. Later I think it was 2011, something like that, 2012, I felt again a strong conviction in my heart that you should give up your job, you should resign and start serving people. But when we look at outside, there were no one that we can serve. Of course, during that my full-time job, we used to lead Bible study groups in weekends or during our spare time. But it was a strong conviction in my heart that I should give up my job, full-time job, and start serving people. But who are these people? After lots of resisting about this conviction, we came to this point that we surrendered, because at that time we really need my income, because we had a very big mortgage. And it was a risk, but I surrendered and I resigned. And then after resignation, I started looking around to find some people to serve. But later in 2012, lots of Iranians and Afghans started coming as refugees and asylum seekers to Australia. And we realized that this is, in fact, this conviction came from God preparing us to serve his people. So this was the way that I'm engaged with the Persian ministry and serving the asylum seekers and refugees. More than 95% of people in our communities are asylum seeker or refugees.
Mm-hmm. So 95% of the people that you interact with on a daily basis, from a pastoral point of view, are asylum seekers or refugees. What type of struggles do you see that they encounter living in Australia?
Yes, to be honest, they keep us very busy. No? Most of us know that how refugees and asylum seekers suffer. There are lots of challenges when they come to Australia, they face in Australia. They are coming to a new country with a new culture, new social relationships. When they were thinking about to come to Australia, smugglers, the people that brought them to here, they promised them that in 1 year you will get your visa, and in second year you will be able to bring your families here. You know, after 10 years waiting, still it didn't happen. Still they are waiting for outcome of their application to get a proper visa that based on it, they can bring their family members here. But it didn't happen. Lots of them suffer from this long delay from application process. Year by year, their mental health and their general well-being is affected by this long process of the application. When they coming to Australia, they bring their previous past experience with them as well. So the suffering that they are experiencing, it started from back in country. We know what is happening in countries like Afghanistan or Iran. Lots of troubles there for people. No freedom, no religious freedom, no social freedom, nothing, no political freedom. So lots of socio-economic troubles in the countries. So it caused them to feel depressed. Based on studies that they are done inside Iran, at least 1 of 4 people suffering from serious mental issues inside Iran. So when they come to here, they don't leave their troubles, they don't leave their issues back in their home country. They take it with themselves and they bring here. And then the experience of their prolonged visa application here intensifies their experience, their sufferings. There are lots of conflicts between people in Iranian community and Afghanis families. This is the result of depression, mental health, and anger. It is very widespread in the community.
What I found too, I agree with Sam from working with many people, and I work with people not only from other Persian communities but other communities that have come to Australia, that a lot of them are fleeing their country because of persecution or war, and it's not safe to stay in their country anymore. So they've come to a safe place. But as Sam has said, they come with the trauma that they have experienced in their home country. And then if they're put into detention here by our government, they also suffer trauma in the detention centres and the communities in which they live in. And then when they come out of detention into the community, there is often trauma there as well. They may not be accepted by the general community in Australia. The long, protracted wait. I've had a woman who she fled her country, came here 5 years ago. She's still waiting for her initial interview with Home Affairs. She hasn't even had one interview to determine whether her leaving her country, whether our country agrees with her reason for leaving. She's got children back in her home country. Some of them fled to the States, and she has family and children in the States, and she is the only one that made it to Australia. So she's waiting with uncertainty, insecurity, limited language, and an inability to connect. There are not many of her community in our country. So she can't even connect. I think she knows 2 people from her country in Victoria. So she is very isolated and lonely and traumatised. And that's certainly what we see across the board, not only for people that are coming from Iran or Afghanistan.
Can we see the clip for Farbod? Because his experience, it is good that we see.
Yes. We're going to show a recent photograph, and you may have seen this young woman in the news lately, where she's in hospital. Yeah. So these are, Sam's going to talk about some recent events which you may have seen in the news, but these are typical events perhaps of what's happening in Iran at the moment.
No, I think that's good that we
Oh,
see
the video
Farbod
first? We'll do the video
stories.
first. Yes, sorry, we're going to go to the video first.
Indonesia to Australia, 3 months in detention, Christmas Island 1 month, Darwin is 1 month, and Curtin is 1 month. My name is Farbod. I'm from Iran. I came to Australia 2012. I came by boat from Indonesia to Australia, 3 months in detention, Christmas Island 1 month, Darwin is 1 month, and Curtin is 1 month. After transfer to Melbourne. 26 July 2013, my lawyer has called me and then he said, you reject your case, you don't have a work right, you don't have an income, you don't have a Medicare. And then he said, yeah, you reject to everything, you can't work or something. I said, okay, what can I do for my life? I need a rent, I need a food, I need to buy something. This is not for human. I'm here is Australia. He said, okay, we help you for home, for food, for something. I said, I'm not here for free. Broken my heart. Here Australia, I'm human. I'm same you, but different. You're lucky you're born to here, I'm born to Iran. 10 years I'm fighting to my life. No income, no Medicare, no work right. No. This is immigration. Immigration said if everyone don't have a visa, can voluntarily work. I came to Australia, help to Australia people, help to this country. Now I don't know, but I hope, because this time is election, I hope minister is changed, not just me, everyone. You know how many people is same me in Australia? How many people is sick? But now I have a high blood pressure. I use 2 medicine, strong medicine for sleeping. This is not good for Australia. But anytime I believe God is next me. 10 years, why?
Seek freedom to peace in this country. They imagine that they will contribute to the society, they will contribute to Australian community. But when they came here, they encountered this process, these things that happened to them. This is not only Farbod. Based on my knowledge from Iranian community and Afghan community, even Farbod's emotional situation is much better than many others. He attends the church, he participates in the community, and this keeps him going. But lots of people, they are isolated, they are depressed, they are broken. Many of them, they think about suicide. So this is the condition that, fortunately, God has brought some people like me and others that we can serve these people. We can journey with them, and we can give them hope. They are hopeless. Can I just explain a little bit about what they experience? A typical asylum seeker that coming from a country such as Iran to here, they suffer from language barriers. They can't communicate with other people. It is a big burden. Imagine how you can be in the community and you can't speak to them. Even when they speak, they feel sense of discrimination. This is very strong feeling in our community. Sense of discrimination. They suffer from unemployment. They have no income to feed their families, to build their future. Lack of sufficient social and health care support for them. And then family and social relationship. They have no families here. They have no relatives and friends that they can help them in time of crisis. They feel lonely. Then they involve with the cultural issues, cultural shock. Very influential it is in their relationship with their community, with family members. Then family violence, it is very common because of the depression and mental health that they are going through. And we have a culture of distrust, which it also contributes in mental health issues, because in Iranian culture, people don't trust. It has been shaped during the history. They don't trust others. They don't disclose their pains to others. They suffer inside them. If you see them, they look happy. They look usually happy and very good, energetic, but inside them, if you realize, inside them they are broken. They are full of pains. This is a part of culture. They suffer from culture that formed by Islamic elements. For example, the position of men and women in the family and in the community. You know what is happening to women inside Iran. This is what is happening to Iranian women inside Iran.
Sam, I might give you the microphone just to take with you.
So, as you see, 20 years old Iranian woman died after being beaten by morality police inside Iran because she didn't cover her head fully. This is what is happening to people. So they are bringing this trauma and pain by themselves to Australia, to us. And instead of serving them, we put more burden on them. Also, I'm going to talk about another aspect of Iranian culture, which is, I don't know, you have heard. I will ask you if you have heard about this or no. Anyone have heard about taqiyya or no?
They're shaking their heads, no.
No. We call it taqiyya in Islamic term. It is some kind of dishonesty, you know. It is a part of Iranian culture. For example, it has been shaped during the centuries of Islamic forces inside Iran. it tries to value dishonesty. For example, if you are in danger or sometimes if you benefit from something, you are allowed to lie. So this causes lots of troubles because it intensifies miscommunication. It intensifies the relationships inside the community and even the community and others. Because when, for example, you asking someone that how everything is going with him or she or he would say, everything is okay. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling very good, but something is wrong. But in fact, he tries or she tries to convince you that she's happy or he's happy. Or even in this communication, I have stories to share. For example, in the conflicts, they never speak about why they are upset. They try to bring other reason. They try to convince other side that it was another reason that they are upset. So when these kind of things happening, this is the miscommunication, and it is very difficult to resolve the issue, to reconcile them, because you don't know what is the reason behind what they are claiming, what is the behind what they are experiencing, and like that. And you have heard about Ta'aruf. I don't think so. You have heard about Ta'aruf. Ta'aruf, another aspect of Iranian culture, which if you ask someone, for example, would you like tea? He would answer no 3 times to be respectful. So you don't know at the end he likes to have tea or no. And then when you don't give him, for example, provide him with the tea, he will get upset. And so he will, for example, blame the others that they are not respectful, they are not serving him or something like that. So lots of cultural issue is not, for example, we are bringing from our own country. So as I explained to you, there are lots of mental and emotional issue, which depression, anger, feeling of loneliness, distrust, hopelessness is very common in Iranian communities. Yeah.
I think in Australia we are very straightforward and we pretty much say it as it is. And it can be very confronting for people, can't it, Sam, to come from a different culture where some of the things that Sam is talking about exist and we don't understand that, and they don't understand our way either, and they just think we're rude. We think they're rude, and so we get off on misunderstanding right from the very beginning of our relationship with people. So if we can understand that people come from a different culture, a different mindset and a different way of approaching things, and persist with people and try to understand each other, then we will get through. But it can be very difficult, as Sam is explaining, some of these cultural issues that Australians, we just don't understand. But hopefully today you're starting to understand some of the difficulties that people go through. Sam, you said you had some other stories there and things, so...
Yes, I can. I have a few items that I can explain to you. So I'm going to speak about the expectation from a pastor or people that they are serving them at the church. So what is their expectation? Of course, you should realize that this expectation coming from their needs, not, for example, another thing. For them, a pastor should be 24/7. All the time, during the day and night, should be available to them, and they expect such of these things. For example, financial assistance, prayer and spiritual counseling, They expect pastor to help them to find job or help them with job application. They expect pastor to resolve the conflicts. But when they are approaching to resolve the conflict, everyone again expects you to take their side, you know. If you don't take their side, they will get disappointed, and they will be very angry, and they blame the church as being unfair, and they will even sometimes leave the church. They expect pastor to help with their immigration process, help them with renting a house, or provide them with furniture, help them or their children with education, help them to get baptized as soon as possible, help them with their marriage, including finding right wife or right husband, helping them with transportation. They expect the pastor to go to their home and pick up them and bring them to church. Help them to find a job, which I told you. So this is the things that we experience in our Farsi-speaking communities. But how we think that we can help them? Because as you see, lots of issues coming from culture and background traumas and lots of mental issues that we are involved in serving these people. We realize that people, for us, there is no difference between people that coming to church or they don't come to church. Both of them, we love them and we want to serve them. So when we try to figure out how we can reach out to them and help them, we realize the best thing that we can do is through social media and through their own language. You know, for especially women in Islamic, from Muslim background, there is less opportunity or not even a smallest opportunity to come to society, to learn. The culture expects them to stay home, especially for Afghans, and serve the kids, raise the kids. There is no opportunity for them to connect to the community and learn and receive some kind of support. So the thing that we realize is best, could serve them best, is to develop digital platform in their own language. So to help them by culturally sensitive and also religious sensitive ways. As I said, for us, there is no difference between Christians or non-Christians. So by educating them and giving them some kind of the skills to get rid of these traumas, to give them hope, to change their mindset about the cultural things, to give them some skills that they can be confident, especially women. They are not confident. Men can go outside, find job, improve their English, but women stay at home, raise the children. So we are developing this digital platform and we are working very hard on it in Farsi language at the first phase, and hopefully already it has produced lots of fruits, and hopefully we will continue this project. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Sam, as you see, has a lot of expectations that are on him as a pastor. And so perhaps if we can suggest that we think about and be praying for Sam and other pastors that might work with people from other cultures, knowing that this pressure and this expectation is there.
Thank you.
I just want to move on now and explain a little bit about what Baptcare does, and also about how you might like to engage with people seeking asylum and refugees, and then we might open up for some questions. Yep. So Baptcare, as I said, it's a large organisation. It has nursing homes. We provide community support for elderly people living at home, and we have family and community supports. And we also have a sector within Baptcare called Sanctuary and Houses of Hope. And Sanctuary run a 30-bed rooming house for men in Brunswick, and Houses of Hope has individual homes within the community that we assist with providing housing for women with children, single women, and some families with husband, wife and children. So we have about 80 people that are currently housed within Baptcare housing. And what we try to do is provide rental or rental assistance, we pay utilities, provide vouchers for food, and we also run a food bank, which Heather at the back there helps with the food bank every week, which runs out of West Preston Baptist Church. We also connect with other churches, Ashburton Baptist, West Preston Baptist Church, which is where I'm from, Rosanna Baptist, New Hope as one of them, and there are other churches. South Yarra Baptist have houses which they have not given per se to Baptcare, but allow Baptcare to rent at a much reduced price to people seeking asylum. So what West Preston did was they got together with about 4 other churches, and individual people within the community have raised funds, and we now have 3 houses that house 6 men in them. And that funding is coming from individuals just like you who want to contribute to helping people in this situation. But I've got some slides up here too about how you might connect if you want to. And one of them is really, perhaps on a personal level, become a friend to someone who's not an Aussie, not from your culture. I think I read a report once where less than 25% of international students had ever been into an Australian home. So a lot of our people here that are seeking asylum and are refugees have never actually been in the house of an Australian. They've never been invited to dinner, and you might have to invite them 3 times, as Sam has said, or invite them out for coffee and make sure you ask more than 3 times. But, you know, take them for coffee, invite them into your life, and invite yourself into their life. Visit their homes. They are very hospitable people. Usually they're wanting to invite you for dinner rather than the other way around once you get to know people from other cultures. Help them access resources in the community, public transport, going to appointments. Help them to fill in paperwork. Centrelink does my head in, and my English is perfect. How anyone who does not speak English can fill in those forms is beyond me. So you might like to offer to help them with some paperwork that they need filling in. Invite them to special celebrations, Christmas, Easter, birthdays. Invite them to your church. They're curious. Be curious about them as they are curious about you. And pray for them. Pray, ultimately, that their needs would be met and that they would be granted a visa to live and stay here in Australia. And on a wider level, if you want to get involved more than a personal level, learn more about the asylum seeker situation here in Australia and try to understand their situation. So you could go to the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre website, or there are other, if you just Google asylum seekers in Australia, you will get a whole lot of information, and it will lead you to varying sites where you can learn much more. Advocate for them where possible, that they would be allowed to study. I had a child who was really wanting and hoping to go to prep and not allowed to. Her visa does not allow her to study. And so she missed out on her first year of prep, and we actually got her in the next year with a fully funded position. But she has to pay full price, which I think is about $12,000 to $13,000 a year, just to go to school because she has the wrong visa. So advocate where possible. Advocate that they would be allowed to work. We're wanting to get international people to come to Australia to work. We've got thousands of people sitting here in Australia who have no work rights that could work. They could be trained and they could work, but they're not allowed to. So advocacy for that is really important. Write letters to your local Member of Parliament once you've found out some more information to advocate for work rights, study rights, and a quicker visa process in our country. You might like to donate money to charitable organisations, and Baptcare is one of them. There's Catholic Care, Lentara Uniting, there's several who provide housing and casework support for people seeking asylum. And if you want to know more about the Sanctuary program, you can Google Baptcare Sanctuary and it will come up with what we do, and there is a space to donate there if you're wanting to do that. And the other option is to help provide housing. So if 10 of your mates get together or 20 people get together and they all give, $20 a week, you'll be able to provide housing for a family. So think about that as a community, whether you would like to do something like that. But providing housing for somebody who has no Centrelink, no work rights, no Medicare, is really foundational to their well-being. Getting them off the streets and giving them house and somewhere safe and secure to live so that they can get back on their feet and keep moving. So we might move now to some questions. If you've got any questions for either myself or Sam, we'd be happy to answer them. Yes?
A quick question. Thank you very much, Sam. Could you give us a little bit of a breakdown of the profile of the Iranian community? You're talking about Shiites, Baha'is, people from the traditional Christian community. What sort of figures, who are the sorts of people within your sort of area of care?
Thank you very much for asking this. I'm referring a study that recently is done inside Iran. It gives us a better understanding what is happening in Iranian society. You know that Muslims population is 90% in the world. I'm talking 90% Sunnis and 10% Shiite. Then inside Iran, it is opposite, 90% Shiites and 10% Sunni. But based on the research that recently done inside Iran, how many people you think, what percentage, know themselves Shiite? 90% nominally are Shiite, but only 33% know themselves as Shiites. So the other people know themselves as Zoroastrian, the ancient Iranian religion, and then only 1.5% know themselves as followers of Christ, which means 1,200,000, something like that, because Iranian population is 88 million people. So this is what is happening. Most of people that they are coming from Iran as asylum seeker, they are Shiite, and some of them, they are Sunnis because of the discriminations against the Sunnis and Baha'is. But Baha'is came very earlier, many years, 20, 30 years earlier to Australia. They settled and they have established lives.
You're right, my doctor here in Eltham is Baha'i.
Yeah. Very established life, but the recent refugees after 2012 and 2010, most of them they are Shiite, nominal Shiite, I should say. But when they come here, or inside Iran, they looking for alternative faith or doctrine to fill their gap. They fill gap inside them because Shiite Islam is not able to answer their fundamental questions, and also these people see hypocrisy in people, the Shiite government, and lots of these things. Oppression, government, Islamic regime want to control every aspect of these people's life, like the photo that we see. So this is the reason that people dislike, you don't use hate, but I use dislike Islam, and they want to seek alternative doctrine or faith system. So this is the summary of it.
Thank you, Sam. Can I answer that?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Yeah, so early on, when they first arrive in Australia, most people do get connected with Medicare, and they get some Centrelink support. But soon, and I think it's about 6 weeks later, the Centrelink support drops because they're a healthy young person, usually, and they can work, even though not much English, but it's expected that they would go out and find work. And the payment that they do receive beforehand is about 79 to 80% of the New Start allowance. So it's not the equivalent of New Start, it's less, and it's called the SRSS funding. Somewhere along their journey in the visa application process, if they've had a negative response with their interview, they go along to the AAT court, after some years I might add, and they get a hearing there. And if they're found negative at that AAT hearing, they can apply to be heard at the Federal Circuit Court, and it's at that point that their Medicare and all funding and they lose their work rights is cut off. So when they first come to Australia, as Sam has said, they're usually quite traumatised, there's culture shock, there's a lot that they need to acclimatise in terms of living in Australia, and they are expected to go out and work. And many of them cannot at that point. Some do. They become cleaners, usually manual work that doesn't include a lot of English. But as they go along the visa application process, and there is a lot of no's, as we heard, what was his name on the video? Farbod, yes. Pretty much. Absolutely. Yeah, yes.
Or are they taken care of, those people?
No, they're not taken care of at all. No. So we have Cabrini Health has a couple of centres that people can go to access medical support and also counselling and psychiatric support, but that's very minimal. And we also have Foundation House, where people can go if they've experienced trauma and torture. But the resources are extremely limited. The resources for mental health are limited anyway for anybody, let alone whether you're an asylum seeker or a refugee. But for that group of people, it is even smaller. Yeah.
And especially it is not in their language.
Yes.
You know, there are lots of resources maybe in English, but unfortunately for Farsi-speaking people or other people that are coming from as not English-speaking countries, there is very limited resources. Well, it's summarized on some websites, maybe 1 or 2 pages about the mental health and this kind of things. Yeah.
And as Sam was talking about before, it is very difficult for people who come from some of the cultures that Sam is talking about to actually admit that they have a problem. Okay? So just trying to get themselves to a place where they say, yes, I need help is really, really challenging.
Yes, it is some kind of a stigma for people that if they approach any counselor or psychologist, I know a husband and wife that wife came to me and said husband is addicted to drugs and he doesn't work, he came late or even doesn't come to home during night and this kind of things. I introduced them to a psychologist. I'm talking about culture even. I encouraged the wife to attend, but husband didn't come accompany the wife. He said, this is no your issue. I'm feeling well and I'm good. I have no issue. You go and you have the issue. You have the mental thing. So this is a stigma for in our culture.
Yeah. Yes. They have not made any announcements yet that we're aware of. Look, the family from Biloela, as everybody knows them, finally got a visa, which is fantastic, and that would not have happened without the change of government. Several of the people within Baptcare have recently received a visa, and so we're seeing actually more people receive a yes than the previous year. So if it's probably an anecdotal yes. But I think people are hopeful, would you say, Sam, but waiting for some announcements to be made.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Even this change of the government has given them a little bit hope and they are looking forward. I remember a few years ago when it was election and they expected again the Labour to come, but it didn't come, and many of them, they were thinking about suicide.
Yeah, they were devastated.
No longer they had been able to tolerate the situation.
Yeah. So we're eagerly awaiting some form of announcement of some sort. Yeah. That's right. So we're hoping that process will be quicker. So what happened several years ago was Dutton determined that there would only be so many processed and made a yes in each year. So as Home Affairs goes and they interview people, people are just waiting for even a response. So they don't get a response because they can't get a response under the legislation that currently exists. Only so many yeses can be given. So we're hoping that the process will be quicker. There is, as you know, there was a no boats policy and people who came by boat were never going to be allowed to settle in Australia. Now, the Labor government have said that pre-election that they will uphold that. But whether that is upheld for all the people that came before that decision was actually made, there were a lot of people who came by boat before that, so we don't actually know what's going to happen with those people. We're not sure. And also they've said that they're going to get rid of the short-term temporary protection visas or the chevs. But what does that mean? What are they going to do instead of that? So we don't know. So they're perhaps the answers that people have in their minds about what's going to happen. Yes. One more question, if anybody's got a question.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
Is the answer, I'm embarrassed because I work for the government and at high levels there's just dipsticks that work there. I shouldn't say that on the street. Is the answer to get people who have sought asylum and been integrated into the community and working well and lecturing at universities into these positions that would then help move some of this bureaucracy and get past these barriers that seem so silly?
Look, certainly, I think getting people into those high positions who have lived and walked the walk is going to really be essential going forward. We see how we've now got quite a number of Indigenous people in Parliament and how that's changing the culture for Indigenous people here in Australia. And I think the same will come with people who either are strong advocates of people seeking asylum or they have walked that walk themselves, joining Parliament to actually come and make that difference within both sides of Parliament, or all sides of Parliament. Yeah. All right, we might finish there, but thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Sam, for coming today, and I think Sally's going to come and talk to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Gosh, that's we've been really privileged to hear those stories today, and from people who know the ins, the outs, the systemic problems, but also, and this is what I find incredible, is that you still are really hopeful. I'm sure there are days you are not, but we're very grateful that you're on the front line doing that work. Now, we're going to have morning tea in a moment, and if you would like to ask some more extensive questions about how to get involved, please catch Sam and April before they race out the door. We want to thank them very, very much for their time. Just if you're local and you would like to get involved, even just in a meeting, just to dip your toe, there is an asylum seeker group that meets on a Monday once a month in Montmorency. So keep that in the back of your mind. But there are others, and I'm sure some of you are already connected with them, so please find those places to be involved. But if you can join me and give Sam and April a really big thank you, and then we will enjoy some morning tea.